I remember the moment my world shattered inside that courtroom. They sneered at my invention until my partner laid out the prototype patent draft. I watched the judge's gavel hover, as if waiting for permission to crush me. My pulse echoed like a jackhammer against my ribs. The prosecution's smirk was a blade twisting in my chest. I, an idealistic tinkerer with nothing but blueprints and dreams, faced a wall of doubt so thick it felt impenetrable. Then, my partner, pale but determined, stepped forward and unrolled a crisp document. The draft patent, I thought lost forever. I could hear the shuffle of papers, feel the courtroom's breath hitch. My throat went dry. How had they gone from mocking my designs to staring in stunned silence? One moment, I was already preparing my apology, ready to admit defeat. The next, everything pivoted on that single sheet of paper. I froze. I couldn't breathe. Then what happened when the judge peered over his glasses? Then how did the jury react when that draft landed on the bench? And then, would my invention finally get the chance to speak for itself? What happens next in this confessional saga? I am Cara Whitfield, an aerospace engineer by day and a tinkering dreamer by night. I remember the smell of burnt solder wafting through my cramped garage as I sketched circuit diagrams on a folding workbench. Who knew that endless nights of trial and error would lead me here facing a judge, clutching a faded blueprint? I grew up in a small town outside Dayton, Ohio, where propeller planes drifted overhead like ghosts of invention. My father, a mechanic with grease-stained hands, taught me to listen to machines. Every bolt has a heartbeat, he used to say, tapping the engine block with a wrench. My mother, a schoolteacher with a gentle voice, nurtured my curiosity with science fair kits and library passes. I was their only child, an inquisitive kid who disassembled my toys faster than I could put them back together. I met my partner and co-inventor, Jonas Miller, at NASA's internship program. He was tall and quiet, with an encyclopedic mind for patent law. My hands were always stained with graphite. His suit pockets always bulged with legal pads. Together, we dreamed of revolutionizing drone technology, building devices so light and efficient they could deliver life-saving medical supplies to remote villages. I remember the first prototype, a spider-legged contraption that stumbled across the floor like a newborn fawn. I cheered its every twitch. Jonas took meticulous notes: flight times, battery drain, patentable features. I felt unstoppable. After long days refining the design, we presented to our lab director, expecting praise. Instead, we were met with polite nods and stifled yawns. "It's cute," one senior engineer said, tapping his temple with a smug grin, "but hardly practical." I forced a smile, but inside I burned. Jonas squeezed my shoulder. "We'll prove them wrong," he whispered. On weekends, I balanced single motherhood with my obsession. My son, 8-year-old Leo, would perch on a stool and watch me solder microcontrollers. He'd ask 1,000 questions: why the wires glowed, how the blades spun. His wide-eyed wonder was my fuel. Every morning, I kissed Leo's forehead, his hair soft as down, and dropped him off at school. Then I clocked into my engineering job, where I designed propulsion systems for satellites. I hid our drone project in my free hours, tucking blueprints in my desk drawer, sneaking into the lab after hours with Jonas's ID badge. The thrill of secrecy was intoxicating. I'd slip into the cold, fluorescent corridors, heart pounding. Like a drum, the clang of my footsteps echoed off steel walls. I worked until the janitor flicked on overhead lights, startling me like a specter. I'd pack away my tools and race home to tuck Leo into bed, reading him bedtime stories until his breaths evened out. Our invention blossomed in stolen moments: a propulsion module that adjusted thrust in real time, a camera gimbal that stabilized footage in turbulent winds, a lightweight frame spun from carbon fiber threads. Each breakthrough felt like unwrapping another layer of possibility. Then came the day we filed our provisional patent. I held my breath as Jonas slid the draft across the table at a downtown law office, the heavy oak desk gleaming under chandelier lights. "We're one step closer," he said, eyes shining. I reached out, fingers grazing the paper. My heart swelled, proof that our sleepless nights had substance. Life felt balanced on a knife's edge. By day, I was the confident engineer presenting at meetings, and by night, I was the exhausted mother whispering apologies to Leo for skipping his soccer practice. "I'm doing this for you," I'd say, brushing his hair back. He smiled, unaware of how high the stakes had climbed. At home, photos of Leo with his science fair ribbon and snapshots of a family barbecue lined our living room wall. They reminded me of what I was fighting for, a better future, a spark of wonder in my son's eyes, a legacy of innovation. But beneath the veneer of normalcy, tension simmered. My boss hinted that I was prioritizing personal projects over team goals. Jonas grumbled that our patent extension was overdue. Leo asked why I looked so tired, and I lied, blaming a big project at work. Was I stretching myself too thin? Yet every time I caught a glimpse of my prototype humming quietly on my workbench, I felt alive. The wires pulsed under my fingertips, like a living thing. That promise of flight, of making a real difference, pulled me forward. And then, one afternoon, the email arrived, a cease and desist letter from a rival firm claiming patent infringement. My screen went blurry. Did they have rights to our ideas? Jonas's face drained of color as we read the tall claims lined in legalese. Were we about to lose everything we had built even before our patent was finalized? What happens when competitors move on our dreams? I felt my blood turn to ice the morning after we opened that cease and desist letter. I sat at my kitchen table, clutching a half-cold mug of coffee, while Leo chatted about his school play. How could he worry about costumes when our future teetered on a rival's inked threat? I drove to the lab with my knuckles white around the steering wheel. Jonas met me at the door, his crisp suit ruffled, eyes shadowed with doubt. "They've got deep pockets," he murmured. I swallowed. We're amateurs up against titans. Then small things began to unravel. At work, my manager Tom called me into his office under the guise of project alignment. His door clicked shut behind me. "Cara," he began, folding his hands, "your focus seems divided. We can't have personal side projects bleeding into mission-critical work." I forced calm. "I meet every deadline." His lips curled. "Barely." He slid a printout of a missed report. I blinked. I'd turned it in on time, or so I thought. Had someone taken advantage of my late-night absences? And then, Jonas started shifting. He would arrive late to our clandestine meets, muttering about legal precedent and amending claims. The fire in his eye dimmed. I found him one night staring at my prototype through the glass door, expression tight. "We need to rethink the delivery arm," he said flatly. His tone was clinical, no spark of excitement left. I clenched my jaw. Was he losing faith? I watched him walk away, briefcase in hand, as if sealing off the dream we'd once shared. Then Leo noticed my distance. He tugged at my sleeve during dinner. "Mom, you look sad." His small voice cracked a splinter in my heart. I smiled, but it felt brittle. "Just tired, sweetheart." His brow furrowed. "Are you okay with Dad?" Dad, my ex, hadn't been in our lives for years. Why did Leo mention him now? I realized I'd been skipping parent-teacher conferences, dodging play rehearsals, spending nights hunched over blueprints. Jonas would tap his watch, impatient. I justified it. "This patent will secure Leo's future." But the more I justified, the more I lost control. In the lab, a senior engineer, Mara, cornered me beside the storage racks. She whispered, "I hear you're in hot water with legal." Her smile was sharp. "Might want to pick another focus." I felt the walls tightening. Every friendly nod in the hallway felt like a covert warning. Was I being watched? Then, Jonas delivered another blow. He called me at midnight. His voice was flat, words clipped. "They've hired investigative counsel. They want our entire notebook, Cara." My fingers trembled as I gripped the phone. "They can't force us. They can subpoena you," he interrupted. "And if our drafts aren't airtight?" His threat hung in the hour's darkness. I paced my garage workshop, the prototype sleds blinking quietly, mocking me. "You promised we'd be a team," I whispered to the metal frame. The gears in my mind whirled, fear laced with anger. Then, the next lab meeting, I presented our latest findings, hands shaking as I clicked through slides. The room felt colder than usual. Tom's eyes bored into me. "Interesting," he said, voice devoid of warmth, but hardly groundbreaking. Heat flushed my face. I stumbled over my words. Did they plan to bury us? Mara exchanged a look with another engineer. I glimpsed pity, or was it schadenfreude? Afterward, I stormed to Jonas's office. "They're ganging up on us." I spat. "We need to fight back." He leaned back, arms crossed. "Fighting won't help us if our paperwork is flawed. We need to revise, tighten every claim." His calm felt like a rebuke. Did he think I was reckless? My chest knotted. Was I the hot-headed inventor, blinded by invention, while Jonas played Cold War strategist? Then, at home, I found Leo's latest school drawing pinned to the fridge, a stick figure family, a smiling mum, a small boy, and a shadowy figure labeled Patent Monster. My breath caught. He saw it too. I sank to the floor beneath that sketch, heart pounding. What have I dragged you into, Leo? I pressed my forehead to the cool tiles that night. I dreamed of the courtroom again, judge's gavel overhead, Jonas's face unreadable as he handed over our draft. But this time, the pages dissolved in flames. Awoke choking on sweat. Were we spiraling beyond repair? Then, the next morning, a letter arrived. Not from our rivals, but from the patent office. A request for clarification, citing inconsistencies in our claims. I stared at the envelope, breath hitching. Could this be the final nail? What happens when the foundations you built start to crack? I woke to the harsh glare of morning sunlight slicing through my curtains like courtroom spotlights. I rubbed my eyes and saw Jonas's urgent voicemail blinking on my phone. They've escalated, court date set. My chest tightened. How did we get here? I stumbled downstairs to Leo's cereal bowl, half-eaten and soggy. He looked up, eyes wide. Mum, will you be home for my recital? My throat constricted. I forced a smile. Of course, sweetie, I lied, heart pounding in my ears like a warning bell. I raced to the lab, adrenaline lacing every step. The hallway lights flickered above me, as if questioning my resolve. Jonas met me at the door, face pale in the fluorescent glare. He shoved a stack of papers into my hands. I flipped through deposition transcripts, my words twisted. My design described as derivative, our patent draft criticized for ambiguous language. My vision blurred, my own voice used against me. Then, in the conference room, I faced the legal team I'd once admired. Their tailored suits and steely gazes felt like claws digging into my skin. I tried to steady myself, but my fingers trembled. As I unhooked my badge, Ms. Whitfield, their lead counsel, intoned, "You understand the severity of this proceeding." His voice was surgical. "Your invention allegedly infringes on IP held by Transglobal Aero." Each word landed like a hammer blow. I swallowed. "With respect, our design precedes theirs. We filed a provisional patent in March." My voice cracked. The room was silent, except for the hum of the air conditioner. "We have documentation." He slid forward a document stamped filed April 12, 2025. My heart lurched. Their patent filed 2 weeks before ours. I scanned the header. Transglobal. Their prototype schematic looked eerily similar to my own notes. My stomach dropped. Had Jonas misfiled our draft? I clenched my jaw. No. I pressed my hand to the table, feeling the woods grain like the ridges of a gavel. Then, the counsel's eyes glinted. "We'll see if your provisional holds up." He leaned back, smiled faint and merciless. I stumbled out of the room into a deserted corridor, air rushing past me like the wind beneath a falling drone. My legs gave way. I sank against the wall. "I can't let this break me." My phone buzzed. A text from Leo's teacher recital moved up to tomorrow morning. My chest constricted. Leo's joy would be my redemption. "I'll be there." I gathered myself and returned to Jonas's side. He offered a shaky nod. "We fight," he whispered. "We gather every prototype photo, every lab notebook page." I exhaled, breath scattering like paper. "We'll show the dates stamped in our workshop photos." My voice surprised me, steady, determined. That night, I sat in my garage, fluorescent bulbs humming overhead. My workshop was a graveyard of half-assembled frames and tangled wires. I sifted through hard drives, extracting timestamps from drone flight videos. My fingers flew, photocopying every receipt for carbon fiber stock. "I am not losing this. 2 a.m., I collapsed on the floor. Jonas hovered in the doorway, exhaustion etched in the lines of his suit. "We have more than they do," he said quietly. His gaze settled on the prototype humming softly on the bench. "We just need to be sure." I nodded, blinking back tears. "We're in this together." The next morning, I entered the imposing stone courthouse, its columns towering like watchful sentinels. My heels clicked on marble, echoing the drumbeat in my chest. Jonas mouthed the plan: evidence presentation, witness testimony, cross-examination, defense. Inside the courtroom, the air smelled of old leather and polished oak. The judge's bench loomed ahead, its dark wood reflecting overhead lights. I gripped the rail of the witness stand, knuckles white dot. My heart thundered as Transglobal's counsel began. I focused on the way the judge's gavel sat, waiting. My pulse synced to its weight. Then, when they called their first witness, an engineer, who claimed to have filed my concept months before I even sketched it, I felt rage coil in my gut. They stole my dream. I took a breath, recalling my father's words. Every bolt has a heartbeat. I imagined the prototype's carbon fiber frame pulsing under my hand. My turn came. I approached the stand, feeling exposed under the gaze of 100 eyes. I cleared my throat. "I am the inventor," I began. "I sketched this device in January, not March." I presented my lab notebook, pages marked with my scrawled dates. Jonas passed along flight test footage, showing the drone stabilizing a payload on February 2nd, 2025. My voice grew stronger with each word. "Here are the file properties in edited metadata proving our timeline." The courtroom held its breath. The judge leaned forward, eyes narrowing. The opposing counsel's smirk faltered. Then, the tide shifted. Evidence piled, timestamps unassailable. I described how I'd watched Leo's face light up when the prototype gently landed a pack of bandages in our backyard simulation. "That moment defined our purpose," I whispered, voice cracking but fierce. When I stepped down, legs shaking, I felt something shift, a quiet hope blossoming in my chest. Outside the courtroom later, Jonas embraced me. "You were brilliant," he said, voice thick. I breathed in his suits, scent paper and ink and solidarity. I looked up at the courthouse facade sun reflecting off its pillars. This was our crucible. Could our truth withstand the fiercest scrutiny? Then, the jury retired to deliberate, and then, everything hung on their decision. What happens when all you've built hinges on 12 strangers behind closed doors? I sat in the gallery, hands clamped over my knees like a prisoner waiting for the verdict. My heart pounded so loud I was sure the entire courtroom could hear it. Every tick of the clock was a guillotine's whisper. Jonas leaned toward me, voice low. "We've saved the best for last." I watched the judge's gavel thud, once twice as the opposing counsel began summation. I felt my throat go bone dry, each breath a bargaining chip in a high-stakes game. "This is it, Cara." Then Jonas signaled the bailiff. He rose with purposeful calm, carrying a slim leather-bound portfolio. The murmurs rippled through the room like a wave. "Your Honor," Jonas said, voice steady, "we have one final exhibit, critical evidence, submitted too late for the plaintiff's review." My stomach dropped. Too late. I clenched my fingers in my lap. Jonas met my eyes and nodded. This was our moment. The judge peered over his glasses. "Proceed." Jonas snapped open the portfolio and withdrew a single USB drive attached to a prototype. "Sketch hour, earliest conceptual draft from January 5th, 2025. The room grew silent. He approached the bench and placed the drive before the bailiff. "We respectfully request the court's permission to present digital evidence." My legs trembled. This could backfire. But Jonas's confidence was a tether pulling me from the abyss. Moments later, the clerk connected the drive to the courtroom's system. The projector flickered to life, illuminating the judge's bench with a dimension-filled wireframe drawing of our drone, labeled in Jonas's precise handwriting. Concept Dube 0.1. I'd almost forgotten that night in my garage, when I'd sketched that very design on a scrap of ledger paper by starlight, my son asleep in the next room. That sketch had felt like a whisper of hope. The courtroom lights dimmed. A video began to play, Jonas's hidden camera footage from our January field test. I saw myself, hair pulled back, wiping sweat from my brow as I adjusted the drone's red carbon fiber frame. I heard my own unsteady breaths, felt the thrill as the drone ascended, hovered, and gently dropped a vial of antiseptic onto a marked target. The timestamp blinked in the corner. 2025-01, 15:20 hours, 37 minutes and 12 seconds. I swallowed hard as the image shifted to Jonas, notepad in hand, voice low. "Prototype test, successful. Payload delivery accuracy within 2 centimeters. His eyes glowed with pride. "He'll show them every truth." Tears pricked my eyes. "This is our blood and sweat." The opposing counsel's face drained. His hand tightened on his notes. The judge leaned forward, frown creasing his brow. Then the video cut to a close-up of my workshop notebook. Pages splayed open on the bench. The date, January 7th, 2025, stamped on every page corner. My note, margin comments, circuit diagrams, battery performance data. My private confessions, now vivid evidence. I felt Jonas's hand brush my elbow. They can't dispute that timeline. When the video ended, a hush fell. Did that just shatter their entire case? I exhaled, a ragged breath that felt like a release of 1,000 trapped storms. Jonas rose, voice firm. Your Honor, this evidence irrefutably establishes our priority date. Any claim of prior invention by the plaintiff is demonstrably false. He paused, letting each word settle like stones in still water. We ask that you rule in favor of Ms. Whitfield's provisional patent and permanently enjoin any infringement claims. My pulse thundered. The judge closed his eyes, then tapped his gavel lightly. I will consider this new evidence. His gaze swept the courtroom. Counsel for the plaintiff may respond. The opposing counsel fumbled his binder's desperation. Shadowing his eyes, he tried to argue procedural unfairness, but the judge shook his head. The court finds the evidence material and procedurally admissible under Rule 37C. You may proceed. I felt a swell of triumph and fear. They'll fight back. But deep down, I knew our truth was sealed in pixels and ink. After a tense reply, and the judge's final instructions, both sides stepped back. Jonas and I exchanged a glance that spoke volumes. We did it, as the judge called recess. I stumbled from the stand into the hallway. My legs buckled and Jonas caught me, steadying my weight. I leaned into him, tears spilling. I couldn't have done it without you. He brushed a stray strand of hair from my face. You did this. You always did. Then, outside the courtroom doors, Leo's tiny voice called my name. I turned and saw him clutching his recital costume, eyes bright with unguarded pride. He had slipped past security to stand by the entrance. My son, my anchor. I knelt, wrapping him in an embrace that trembled with relief and joy. Mummy did it, I whispered, voice choked. He pressed his cheek to mine. I knew you would. In that moment, surrounded by the pillars of justice and the soft hum of courthouse footsteps, I felt a catharsis wash over me. All the fear, all the doubt, had led to this undeniable truth. As I rose, hand in hand with Jonas and Leo, I glimpsed the judge calling us back. He met my eyes, a subtle nod acknowledging our victory. There's no need for words. What happens when your darkest fears are exposed and then conquered by your unwavering conviction? I stepped back into the courtroom for the final reading, my heart still fluttering like unsteady rotor blades. I could feel every thread of tension unraveling. Jonas stood beside me, his hand a steady presence on my back. Leo perched on a folding chair in the gallery, eyes wide, clutching his recital costume as if it were a shield. I listened as the judge cleared his throat, the hush falling like a soft curtain. This is it. He unfolded the verdict paper with deliberate care. In the matter of Whitfield v. Transglobal Aero, he began, voice echoing off the oak paneling. The court finds in favor of the defendant, Ms. Cara Whitfield. I froze as those words sank in favor of me. My breath caught. Jonas squeezed my arm. Go on, he whispered. The submitted evidence the judge tapped the USB drive laid before him clearly establishes Ms. Whitfield's priority in invention and her timely provisional filing. The plaintiff's infringement claims are dismissed, and Transglobal Aero is permanently enjoined from any further action against Ms. Whitfield's patent rights. My knees nearly gave way. I won. I saw Leo's small fist pump in the air, and tears brimmed in my eyes. The judge's gaze softened as he looked toward me. Congratulations, Ms. Whitfield. Your perseverance and presentation have upheld the integrity of the patent process. I managed to stand, legs trembling beneath me, and let the weight of triumph wash over every fiber of my being. The gavel struck once, a triumphant drumbeat. I felt like I could fly. Outside the courtroom, sunlight streamed through the high windows, casting long shadows on the marble floor. Jonas wrapped me in his arms, first strong, reassuring. My tears soaked his shoulder as I whispered, "We did it, Jonas. We actually did it." He kissed the top of my head. "You did it, Cara." "You." Leo rushed forward, costume in hand, and threw himself into my legs. I scooped him up, holding him tight. His little arms squeezed me, and I could hear his rapid heartbeat settle against mine. My son still believed in me. We walked out as a family, stepping into a sunlit courtyard beyond the courthouse. The air felt crisp, alive with possibility. I glanced at the prototype patent draft Jonas carried, its pages now, a shield against every skeptic, every rival. I closed my eyes, inhaling the summer air mixed with the scent of stone pillars. I had faced down corporate giants, legal maneuvering, self-doubt, and fatigue, and emerged victorious. Each breath felt like a step toward a new beginning. That evening, back in my garage workshop, I cradled the prototype in my hands. The carbon fiber frame gleamed in the lamplight. Every scratch, every solder joint, every late-night mod was a testament to our journey. I plugged the USB drive into my laptop and watched the video one more time. I whispered excitement. Jonas's steadfast commentary, Leo's sleepy silhouette in the background. This is ours. I sent the final patent application to the US Patent Office with a steady hand, time-stamped proof securely attached. As the progress bar crept across the screen, I closed my laptop, breathing in triumph. Jonas joined me, handing me a cold soda. "To the future," he said, clinking his can against mine. I smiled, feeling every muscle in my face stretch in relief. "To us." That night, I tucked Leo into bed, brushing his hair back as he yawned. "Mom, did you really win?" he whispered, eyes heavy. I kissed his forehead. "Yes, sweetheart, I did." He smiled in his sleep, and I lingered, memorizing the rise and fall of his chest. I slipped back into the living room and sank onto the couch, exhaustion and elation warring within me. I had laid bare my fears in that courtroom. I had exposed my vulnerabilities, and they had become my greatest strengths. Then the quiet hum of my home. I realized the resolution wasn't just legal victory. It was the reclaiming of my confidence, the validation of every late night and every sacrifice. It was the promise that Leo would see his mother as someone who fought, not someone who faltered. I closed my eyes and let tears falter of relief, of pride, of gratitude. Tomorrow, the real work would begin, refining the design, securing investors, and finally delivering those medical supplies to the world's remotest corners. But for now, I allowed myself this moment of stillness. I had survived my darkest hour and emerged not just unbroken, but stronger. I rose from the couch, ready to face the dawn. The prototype hummed softly on the bench, as if ready to soar again. And I, Cara Whitfield, engineer, mother, inventor, was ready to let it take flight. I learned that truth doesn't need permission. I discovered that my vulnerability, every whispered doubt, every tear-streaked midnight, became my greatest weapon. I realized that the heartbeat in every bolt, the spark in every circuit, was fueled by unwavering conviction. I had exposed my fears, and they carried me through the storm. I understood that innovation isn't born in boardrooms or polished presentations. It rises from the grit of garage workbenches and the whispered promises we make to ourselves and our children. I learned that allies can appear in the darkest moments, a partner who believes when you waver, a child whose faith galvanizes your soul. And I saw that perseverance transforms doubts into evidence, tears into testimony. I want you to remember, your ideas deserve a voice. Your story deserves to be told. If you've ever been dismissed, underestimated, or silenced, this is your call to stand up. Let your passion become your proof. I invite you to join me on this journey. If my fight against giants resonated with you, hit that like button and share this video with someone chasing their own dream. Comment below with your story of perseverance. Tell me about a time you turned doubt into victory. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a moment of these confessional courtroom dramas. I promise more stories of truth, tension, and triumph are coming. Together, we'll witness how ordinary people can challenge the status quo and win. I faced my darkest hour and emerged stronger. Now, it's your turn. Like, share, comment, and subscribe for more. ***.